Here we go. It is the first annual Black, Gray, White Manga Awards. Welcome, all. My name is Bruce. I'm joined again by my partner in manga crime, Gautam.
What's up?
So this is our yearly manga awards. We could do weekly awards. That's kind of what the podcast is, I guess. But
Yeah, kind of.
yeah, we're gonna fight it out. We're gonna take it easy. We're gonna figure out what we think the best things of 2022 are. Let's just start with a quick conversation. Gautam, how did you feel about manga in the year 2022?
Oh, it was awesome. Well, the stuff I read was awesome. I think there were a few misses and, of course, cancellations, but all in all, a good year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, selection bias for us because we drop things that are bad and only continue reading good things, but I thought it was a pretty good year. I do think we lacked a little bit in new series. One of our last awards is the best new thing, and while the things that we chose I think are exceptionally good, there was not a whole lot to choose from. There were only a couple things. So lots of cancellations in Weekly Shonen Jump. Interesting year, to say the least.
Yeah. And it's not entirely true that we don't read bad things, as
That's true.
you'll see.
That's true. I read Rent a Girlfriend and My Hero every single week, so
Right.
I
Man,
do read bad things.
yeah, and I back in the day, I read all of Bleach, so there was that too.
Yep. There might be more Bleach soon. You never know. Its
No,
popularity is
yeah.
on the rise.
Yeah, they got a really good adaptation. Good for it.
Yeah, so a quick rundown of the way this is going to work. Gautam and I each have nominated one series for each of these awards. The awards, in order, is we're gonna start out with a little bit of fun and talk about the worst thing we read this year. We're gonna do best finished series / best ending. This is for a series that has ended this year. The best art or artist, best writing, best one shot, best ongoing seinen, ongoing romcom, comedy shonen. We're going to talk about the best character, who we thought had the best character arc, or the best, just was our most likable character in 2022. Best story arc. This is for the sort of individual story piece that ended in 2022. Didn't necessarily have to start there. The best ongoing manga, and then the best new manga, and then a couple of honorable mentions at the end. So we'll go through those. We'll each sort of nominate one. We'll hash out which one we actually think is better, decide on a final winner, and we'll have that list at the end.
Sounds like a plan.
Cool. So let's get started with our one negative Razzie award. What's the worst thing we've read this year? And as you can see, my nominations are on the left, Gautam's are on the right. The worst thing I read this year, almost every single week without fail, was My Hero Academia.
Oh man.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Gautam here has nominated the two chapters of Ichigoki's Under Control, which, granted, is bad.
Yeah. All right. Hey, why don't you start her up and I'll go first next time?
Yeah, I'll do this one. My Hero Academia is the most disappointing thing about it is that it started pretty well, and it has some cool highs, and it has great art, and it has decent action paneling, and my god, the writing is abysmal. This Kohei Horikoshi has not done himself any services in the corners he's written himself into, the shonen tropes he's leaned into, the lack of female agency, the lack of emotional investment. Everything about the writing in this is bad. And I loathe reading it every week, and I have to read it. It's one of those things that I hate read because it's so easy to complain about and fun, and it's just awful.
I'm pretty sure at this point, Hori has no idea what he's doing and he's just flying by the seat of his pants because, yeah, it's bad. How did that happen?
Yeah, we've talked about this off camera, off podcast a lot, but I really do think that the first, the first 100, 120 chapters of My Hero are really good, like really pretty good, decent shonen. I think after that time, he has definitely been sort of week to week, month to month writing, and quality has suffered the longer he's been doing that. And he's been doing it for 4 or 5 years at this point. And we're at the climax of the story, and I hate it, and I want it to be over. Assumedly this ends in 2023. It will not be nominated for Best Finished Series. It will not.
Oh, absolutely not. And I think kind of the worst parts about it are that it's just not coherent anymore. Like, nothing has stakes. It's so predictable. Like, you don't feel tension at any moment in the series anymore.
Right, yeah, pretty much nothing works in the series for me except for the art. I mean, even the action paneling and the action doesn't really work for me. So, yeah, My Hero Academia is not a good series. Please don't read it. Anime is better, but it's not fixing the writing problems. So, yeah, talk to me about Ichigoki's Under Control.
It's kind of hard to talk about because it's just awful. I think people always say like the cardinal sin is just being boring, just being so mediocre and boring.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I think there's an even bigger sin, which is being incredibly unfunny when you're trying to be funny. And Ichigoki's Under Control is just so painfully unfunny. I think the first chapter, I scraped the bottom of the barrel to find one joke I liked, and I only found one. And it's a gag a minute manga, like there's so many jokes thrown at you, and none of them land. In fact, they do the opposite of they flounder and fail. It's just incredibly unfunny to the point where I think it actually actively annoyed me.
Yeah, we talked about this. We talked about chapter 1 2 weeks ago. That was a 50 page intro. We each, I think, found one joke that we liked. And like you said, there was a joke or two on every single page. So there was, close to 100 jokes in this series. And we each found one thing that we were like, oh, that was amusing. We took bets that were on the incredibly low end of how many number of weeks this series will last. I think you said 14.
12 weeks, baby.
And I said 22, which is, not long at all. This is not a good series.
And it has, like, actually nothing going for it. The art's
not
I
great.
don't like the art. Yeah, like, the paneling is just normal. I don't like the character designs. Nothing works. And
yeah,
I guess my pitch to why this is the worst thing we read this year is, well, My Hero is bad because of how it used to be good, and it's disappointing because Horikoshi is clearly talented. It's not. It doesn't fail at every level like this does.
that's true. I will give you that. My Hero Academia does have good art. It is not failing everywhere. Ichigoki is failing everywhere. Do we want to say that this is Ichigoki's Under Control? Because to be honest, we're probably never going to talk about this series ever again. Until it gets canceled, it'll show up in news for a single line, and we'll say, yep, called it. And we'll make good on our bet, buy dinner for whoever wins, and call it a day.
I'm bringing it up every week, even after it's canceled.
All right, I'm going to put Ichigoki's Under Control. You're right. Everything about the series is bad. My Hero at least does have good art. Really good art, generally good action. Some of it was good previously, just was not good at all this year in the writing department. I do think that its writing is so bad that it deserves to be in this conversation fully. I think you agree with me there, but yeah, Ichigoki's
I think
not good.
If this category was the biggest disappointment, it would definitely be My Hero, because I have no expectations for Ichigoki, but
all right,
yeah,
let's lock it in. Ichigoki's Under Control. That's the worst thing we read this year. It definitely was. Next up is the best series ending or finale. This is a series that ended this year, which did it best, which had the best finale, which was the best series that did end. My nominee here is En no Shobutai by Atsushi Akubo. This is Fire Force. And Gautam, your nominee
is Kaguya. Oh yeah, and I'll speak on mine first. I think Kaguya is just fucking phenomenal. It's the best rom-com ever, manga-wise, and I honestly can't think of anything that beats it out in my eyes. The ending wasn't crazy. It was like a 10 chapter epilogue,
It's
and
a little
that's kind of
subdued, yeah.
yeah, that's all it needed to be. It, the ending was sweet. It was melancholy, but it was like wholesome, satisfying, and you got to see where all the characters ended up, and it was a whole ass journey, my friend. So I think it stuck the landing. Akka did all the crazy stuff in the arcs before it, so I think he did a great job just capping it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ending to Kaguya was great. You're definitely right that the climax of it was earlier, so the sort of ending, like you said, 12 chapters were very falling action, where are they now, resolution type things. Oh, just as a side, we'll avoid spoilers in the award show in case people are wondering. The only spoilers you might see are the covers that I've used are always the most recent covers, but generally not a whole lot of spoilers here. Yeah, Kaguya is great, and it's an amazing series, and it ended, and it's sad. I don't know what else to say other than it's really good, and
It's a masterpiece.
it's
Yeah,
sad that it ended because there were clearly Akka still had jokes to tell because he did not run out or recycle those at all.
take it to versus, man.
That's true. Um,
Oh wait, that's one.
that is what that's different.
I'm mixing up great writers here.
Yeah, there's only a few of them. So
Yeah,
on the other side of the coin of a sort of subdued, calm ending that just kind of lets its characters, fade away in a very satisfying way, Fire Force, man. Now, Fire Force only published maybe 10 or 12 chapters in this time frame in sort of December, January. I think it ended the middle of February this year. But boy, I mean, Fire Force overall, I just finished reading a week or two ago. I loved it. I thought it was great. But the last 100 chapters, and specifically in the last 100 chapters, the last about 40 chapters, and specifically in those last 40 chapters, the last 10 or 12 chapters are so batshit, off the wall, insane, crazy, wild, well drawn, cool style. I mean, Akubo is known for his style, right? Soul Eater and Fire Force both have such cool style. For Kaguya, I would definitely say that it's maybe the better series that had a decent ending. Fire Force was a good series that had such a stellar ending. And I know that you haven't read this, but I think you've heard about some of the things that happen in it. And
but I've read Soul Eater, yeah, and that ending was buck wild too. So
I mean,
can
this
imagine.
this is even more buck wild than Soul Eater. There's no comparison. This is honestly, this might be one of the best endings of a manga I have ever read. I think
Really?
I honestly think when the anime gets here, this will probably be, I don't know, 6 seasons, maybe 7. I think when the anime gets here, people are going to start talking about the things that happen in sort of that last 100 chapters, 40 chapters, and people are going to go back and check this out again and realize that it's good. I think I'm going to release a review video on Fire Force as soon as I can. But man, the ending to this is just so explosive and buck wild and full of this meta commentary and twist. It's just crazy. I mean, it's the exact opposite of Kaguya, which is why this is an interesting conversation, because Kaguya was very, yes, that happened, these people ended up together, that relationship progressed, it's very comfy and kind, and the end of Fire Force is not. The end of Fire Force is explosive and wild and crazy, and it all sort of comes to a head in those last, 10, 20 chapters, so...
Man, yeah, I bet that author is buck wild. So I gotta read Fire Force.
You need to read it. I think it's super enjoyable. As far as shonen go, I mean, it's in a lot of ways it's the sort of prototypical shonen. Like they just talk for 2 or 3 chapters and then battle for 20, and then they do that, and they do that for about 200 of the 304 chapters, and then, like I said, you get to the final 100 chapters, and then you get to the last 40 or 50. And Okubo starts I mean, I can't say anything other than he starts meta commenting on his own shonen and other shonen around, using characters in the story in a way that I have not. It's like breaking the fourth wall without directly breaking the fourth wall.
I getcha.
Yeah, it's a
Well, you
writing
know what?
thing.
I'll cede this one to you. I think Kaguya had an amazing ending, but I think it was also like it wasn't groundbreaking or anything. It was just satisfying, and I think the series as a whole is incredible.
Yeah.
But
So, well, here
I,
for the sake of the conversation, do we want to say this is the best series that had an ending or the best ending to a
uh,
series?
I think let's do best ending.
Okay, I was about to say, because if it's best ending, I think I have to give it to Fire Force. If we're going best series that ended, I would give it to
Kaguya,
Kaguya
yeah.
here. But yeah, I mean, we could even put this as a tie, but
Let's give it to Fire Force.
We'll give it to Fire Force. I really suggest reading it. I mean, it's fun. It's good. Akubu's a good character writer too. So yeah, just great. The next thing on the list we have is best art and artist. This is the same thing. The artist gets the credit for the art in their series. I don't think many artists do multiple series, so essentially you've picked one series. This is this series is a little weird because it's kind of like picking the best Elvis impersonator when Elvis is allowed to participate.
Yeah.
And you'll see that when you see our nominees. My nominee is Tatsuyuki Nobu for Dan to Dan. And Gautam is nominated One Punch
Is
Man with
One
Yusuke
Punch
Murata,
Man.
the Elvis man himself. So
In my notes, I put One Punch Man parentheses cheating because I feel like I'm cheating this category because it's One Punch Man.
yeah, it kind of is cheating. As I mean, this one might even be a short one because I will say Dan to Dan's design, action paneling, character art, it's so good. I love it. I would still rank it second behind Murata. You just can't. He's just unbeatable. It's just again, he is just the actual man at the Elvis impersonation contest. Like he's the
Yeah,
best. He's the top. He's the pinnacle. He's the peak. He's what every action shonen artist should be reading and studying and learning from. It's what part of what inspired me to start the White Gray Black channel was the video on action paneling and I wrote a little blog post, I don't know, a year and a half ago now, on action paneling, and Murata was a huge part of that because I would read it and say like, how is he so good? Why is he this good? And learned a lot from that, and I think other mangaka could learn a lot from it too. So, anything else
I
to say about One Punch Man winning this one?
no, because at the end of the day, you could take like certain panels from One Punch Man and give it to a random artist who's good at art, and they can never replicate it. Like he's on another level, and that's just how it is. But I think we should talk more about Dan to Dan
Mm-hmm.
because we all know One Punch Man is like clearly above everything. So it's cheating because it's not fair to compare people to like Murata. But Dan to Dan, I think, has amazing art, and it's weekly, and
Yeah.
action paneling. Like, it is so freaking good that it's on this comparison to begin with, right? What do you think?
I agree. I actually think like if we were sort of ranking, not necessarily ranking, let's play into the fans, and if we were to power scaling the artists here, Murata is Saitama in One Punch Man, right? He's so strong. He one hits everything. Right below that is Yukinobu in Dandadan, and then I think there's a pretty big gap, maybe a small gap. Stuff like Sakamoto Days is good, very good, but it's not on Dandadan levels. Like it's Murata, and then there's a gap, and there's Dandadan, and then I think there's like a pretty decent gap, and then there's kind of everybody else who's good, and then there's a gap between the other people. Like I think Dandadan is a solid second. I think it's an unbeatable second. So
I agree. Yeah, Dan to Dan looks and reads amazing. I think the only thing that comes close in terms of like dynamic action is Kaiju 8 and Sakamoto Days.
yep, I think both of those are good. Yeah. Kaiju 8 may be a little worse, but I read 10 chapters of Sakamoto Days because you've been suggesting it last night. It's good. It's good so far. The action paneling especially is very good, and the art is good. And I've clicked more recent chapters, and the character and still art improves in Sakamoto Days over time, which of course I think it's a new author. So yeah, I'm gonna lock it in. I mean, this is like we said, a little bit cheating, but still deserved win here for best art artist for One Punch Man. Next up on the other side of the manga coin from art is best writing. This is for the author whose words and choices won us over, regardless of the other things in the manga, right? The art here doesn't have to be good. So the nominees that we've got, I have Frieren at the Funeral. That is by Kanehito Yamada and Tsukasa Abe. I believe Yamada is the writer. Might have to double check that. I think Abe is the artist. Maybe it's the other way around. And you have nominated Hunter Hunter.
Yeah, and deservedly so.
Yeah, why don't you go first?
I call it novel X novel because every chapter is just a book. Like it's borderline unsatisfying to read because you're just reading dialogue. But that dialogue is good, and I think if you look back at Hunter x Hunter arcs like York New or the Chimera Ant arc, I think the Chimera Ant arc is literally the best written shonen arc I've ever read, and
a lot of people agree with you. I've heard nothing but praise for it.
Yeah, and it's weird because it's such a slow burn at the beginning, which makes a lot of people dislike it initially, and then it has so many strong emotional beats, and it breaks so many shonen tropes. I think Togashi, when he's on, is the best shonen writer of all time. Like the Chimera Ant arc makes me cry every time.
Yep.
And I think currently the Dark Continent stuff has been really compelling, and I'd say it's only hindered by the fact that I'm reading walls of text instead of reading a manga. It's not the issue isn't a writing issue, it's a medium issue where he's not utilizing the medium well. Right. Because of course he's sick, but that's the biggest flaw with Hunter x Hunter right now. Also, the publishing schedule is.
I was going to say, how do we dock any points here because Hunter published 4 chapters this year? Maybe 5? Not a whole lot, right? Was it even 4 or 5 chapters? It might have been 3. I don't know.
I wouldn't dock points for that. What I would dock points for is not using the manga medium as well as something like Frieren, because at the end of the day, the writing is amazing, but you have to use the manga format to enhance the writing.
Right.
That's part of it.
If you were an amazing writer and you write a great book and you sold it as a movie that was like a slideshow, you're right. That's not the right medium. It's funny that both of these have similar issues. I think it's less severe in Frieren. So my nominee, Frieren at the Funeral, doesn't have the greatest art. It has good art. Definitely doesn't have the best action when it does action. But I have to nominate this because we had the ending of an amazing arc in the Mock of El Dorado, which we're going to talk about later. And the fact that there was a shonen battle there's 2 different ones at the end of that arc, and the fact that I was so invested in that, even though the action art and paneling was, not very good. I wouldn't even say that it's okay. It's really not very good. The fact that I'm still so invested in that battle because the writing for Denkin and for Frieren and for the demons was so good. I mean, this series has consistently blown me away for the past 2 years in how sort of muted and mature and how aesthetic the writing is. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It has this very specific style that no one else is really hitting in. I mean, this is technically a shonen, right? It's a little bit seinen shonen split, but this sort of high fantasy, not an isekai. It feels adult. It feels somber. It feels melancholy. It has all these feelings that you just don't get out of most other popular manga. And I'm glad that Frieren is very popular also. I mean, I think that the writing here is just exceptional.
And I never get exactly that. I was gonna say it has every chapter has a melancholy feeling, even like the ones that are happy, and there are quite a few, right? Uh,
Yep.
you're right. I don't think it's had a bad chapter. Even the ones I like a bit less than others have been great. So
Yeah,
uh,
I mean, there's definitely a lot of series where you go, oh, okay, that one was filler, or we're transitioning from one thing to another, whatever. I think every chapter I've read, I go like, it's like you said, it's compelling, it's interesting. I This is where I get to expose myself. I do not read Hunter x Hunter because I watched like 30 episodes of the anime and thought it was bad. It is. I thought the start of Hunter x Hunter is the most generic, bad shonen, full of every trope in the world. I know everyone's like, once you get to Nen and Chimera Ant, I know that there's good stuff later in it. It's so hard for me to invest all that time and to not get it, not even feel like it was just okay, right? Like reading Fire Force is not amazing early on. It's good though, and it's interesting enough that I could keep reading it. And I thought Hunter x Hunter was legitimately bad at the start, so maybe someday I'll
and
get around to it. But
I will say it is trope filled at the beginning,
yeah,
and it's kind of supposed to be, but I totally get where you're coming from. The difference is I found it fun, so I was able to go through all that stuff, and not worry too much, and then it dynamically shifted
mm-hmm.
or drastically shifted to something amazing. At the third arc, technically, is
Yeah, and
when
I don't think I got that far. When I watched the
yeah
new version of the anime and got through the intro competition or whatever it is, trying to get their license, hunting license. Is that
yeah
what they're doing?
yeah the hunter exam arc.
Yeah, I just man, I have a problem with like I understand shonen main characters are generally young boys, 12 to 18 or whatever. I did not like Gon. He was too childish for me, and it wasn't in sort of a fun but powerful way. I don't know. Nothing worked for me. I'll start at a better arc maybe because I've been introduced to the characters. I know who they are. So this decision's kind of on you then, Gautam, because you've read both of these. I've only read Friar, and I know Hunter x Hunter is has good writing. I do think it should lose some points, and I do think it loses because there are only 4 or 5 chapters of this published this year. But it's up to you. What do you think?
I think those chapters were good, but I'm still going to give it to Freyr in here because at the end of the day, this is still arc setup. Like it,
Mm-hmm.
Hunter x Hunter is in a spot where like nothing crazy is happening at the moment, quote unquote. So yeah, definitely
Yeah,
Freyr in for this.
yeah. I also think it doesn't win because you pronounce the X in Hunter x Hunter every single time. So we'll just
No, it's there, and you have to pronounce it just like Yuri Triangle Camp.
yeah. So we're the rest of the podcast is going to be us fighting about pronouncing the X in Hunter x
Yeah,
Hunter.
yeah, exactly, and we'll see who gets the award for that.
Well, I mean, I can link to Togashi himself talking about the thing that he wrote and created, and just
I'll
calling
link
it
the
Hunter
guy.
x Hunter. That's pretty solid evidence, my dude.
I'll link the creator of the GIF pronouncing it GIF in return. Oh,
Yeah,
this actually is turning into us arguing about the X. Okay,
it's it
let's move.
will that'll be another time.
Yeah,
Okay, so yeah, best writing, Friday at the Funeral. This is amazing, well deserved win. Next up is best one shot. So this is the best, the best single thing. A one shot is just a single story in a single volume or a short form. The issue here with competition is that we don't get a lot of the one shots that Japan does just because Japan will publish volumes of one shots, and unless something really stands out or is by a creator that we know over here in the West, the fan translators are not going to grab those and pick those up. So most of the one shots we get are Twitter posts, Pixiv posts, or authors who we're already familiar with, or stuff that's really cool. So there's a little bit of a selection bias here in that we get really cool one shots, and then we get a bunch of 2 to 4 page things, which are really not valuable. Now, all that being said, this one is actually not a competition because we both brought the same thing, and it's Goodbye Eri, Sayonara Eri by Tatsuki Fujimoto. That's the winner because it's really fucking good.
yeah, and honestly, I have a. It's kind of hard to even talk about this one, to be honest, because I feel like it's something you should just read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one's an easy choice. We both said that in our notes here. It's like no contest here, and I said, yeah, who are we kidding?
Yeah, I
Because this
mean,
is, yeah, it's the best one.
it's good. Yeah, I mean, so Fujimoto last year also came out with another one shot that's name I'm forgetting. That was also, I would have given, if we had done this last year, I would have given 2021.
That's what I was gonna do, and then I remembered it was last year
Yeah.
because I like that one even better. It was so good.
Yeah, man, what was the name of that? I'm going to search it real quick.
But yeah, I think this just consistently proves that Fujimoto can do whatever he wants and do it well because both of his one shots were pretty
Look
different.
Back. That's right.
Look back.
Yeah, they were really different and they're good. And I think what both Look Back and Goodbye Aries show is that there's kind of a difference between being like a good shonen author and being able to execute, hype battles and, character arcs lining up with battle arcs, right? Getting the sort of progression together. A shonen is set up differently than other types of stories. And the fact that Fujimoto can do Look Back and, Look Back, which was super personal and again, very, very kind of muted, and it's about manga and manga artists, and it's sad, and it's also uplifting. And then to do something like Sayonara Eri, which is kind of more weird and uplifting, and it's a little sad, but also hype. I mean, think about the last page of this, right? No spoilers, but when you get to the last page of Sayonara Eri, you will not be sad even if you were sad previously. And it just shows Fujimoto's absolutely a good writer who can do a lot of different styles and a lot of different things. And I mean, I really hope after he finishes part 2 Chainsaw Man, I hope he just writes, I don't know, two more one shots, only does one shots, more Chainsaw Man, who knows, but he's just good.
And yeah, all of his works seem to reflect on loss and moving on from it and kind of what happens after you lose someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's he's really good at it. He's written everything he's written has that theme, and he's done it really well.
Yeah, it's just great. I mean, again, no contest here. I don't think there were
Yep.
any. I don't even think I could remember any other one shots. There was the weird, the one by the Deus author with the chicken god with the sacrifice.
I didn't read.
You did read
Yeah,
that because we talked.
I
about
did not.
it. Oh no, you didn't. That's right. We talked about it. Didn't read that. That one was interesting. But again, it's got nothing on Sayonara Eri, on Goodbye Eri. So, Yep, that's the winner there.
Easy.
Next up, we have Best Ongoing Seinen. So this is the Best Adult Series. More adult themes, more, sexual violence, things like that. This is an interesting mashup because my nominee for this is Boys Abyss by Minami Ryo. And your nominee is Oshinoko. That's by Aka Akasaka, the writer, and Mango, the artist. And I'll go first. You have not read Boys Abyss.
No,
I tell you to read it every week because
it seems so unappealing.
it's, man, I don't even know how to describe this. It's like it's the best well-written soap opera ever. Like, imagine the kind of soap opera drama of like, boy loves girl, girl loves boy, mom emotionally manipulating. There's a teacher who's a pedophile, and it's adult and it's depressing, and there's suicidal ideation and there's all these things in it, but it's so well executed and it's such a wild ride that I have grabbed onto this series maybe about a year ago and have not let go. I think it's so excellent.
Yeah, and I see, and like I haven't read it, but I've checked some of the Reddit threads, and it seems insane.
It is insane, but the thing is that even though it's wild and insane, it isn't just dumb fun or dumb crazy. It's like legitimately emotionally mature. It handles the sort of adult themes with care and grace, even while still being kind of aggressive with them, I guess. Like I said, I mean, there's a big theme of this series is kind of suicidal ideation and joint suicide agreements, those kinds of things. So if those kinds of things trigger you, I would not read this. I'm okay to read those things, and I think the writing here treats them with a sort of respect given to the characters. It's just a great series. I think when this gets an anime, I know that people ate up Mango, who is the artist on Oshinoko, who we'll talk about in a second. Her last series was Scum's Wish. That got an anime, and people were pretty into that. I know they had some concerns. I loved Scum's Wish when I watched the anime. This feels very similar to Scum's Wish, where these characters are using sex as a weapon and things like that against other characters inside the story. I don't know. I just can't. It's very hard to say without talking spoilers, but it's a wild ride, and I think it's excellently written. But why don't you go ahead with Oshinoko?
Yeah, absolutely. Oshinoko is kind of instantly good. It starts out buck wild, kind of. I wouldn't even say isekai because it's not another world. It's like a reincarnation story.
Mm-hmm. And we can spoil chapter 1, right? There's a homicide and rebirth happening in chapter 1. That's kind of the whole impetus for the plot.
Yeah, and by all means, I didn't think it would go this long, nor did I think it should work as well as it does. But it does both. It's kind of a scathing and brutal critique of the entertainment industry, and I think it's great. Is showing its audience like things that they don't even think about, like the complications of production, corruption, expectations from idols and authors. It talks about a lot of different subjects while also developing its characters on the side. And not just that, Mango's an amazing character designer and artist, so it's just enhanced by that as well. It just doesn't miss, and Aka and Mango make a great team.
Yeah, I mean, Oshinoko is excellent. I think Oshinoko takes this for sure. As much as I love Boys Abyss, Oshinoko is just good. It's just one of the best things of the year. I considered this was in maybe my top ongoing for the year, maybe in the top 3 or 4. It's very good. Like you said, somehow a manga author, right? So he's produced and helped in an anime and a live action because he. The writer of Kaguya-sama, right? Aka Akasaka. It has an anime, it has a live action production, so he's been involved in those. I want to say there might have been a stage production even, but the fact that he goes in and just tears apart TV production and predatory, people who are predatory to cosplayers and cosplays and VTubers and YouTubers and all these different angles on entertainment. This is going to be like, there were some, to reference something that was unduly canceled due to the author being a pervert, Act Age, right? Act Age kind of handled the sort of acting and TV and movies and stage angle of some of this stuff, although it didn't necessarily hit on as dark of the themes. But Oshinoko is like, hey, you know how you love idols? Like, they're not allowed to have boyfriends. People spy on them. People are potentially out to kill them. People are violent towards them. Hey, stage actors, once you're a famous child actor, how do you get back into acting? People see you as a one-hit wonder. You're only the pepper dancing girl. How do you deal with that? And the fact that he goes through so many different facets of the entertainment industry shows me that Aka's he's just a wild. Yeah, he's so good.
Masterful. Yeah, and Act Age got bludgeoned on the head and reincarnated as Oshinoko. Is what happened.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of similar vibes, similar themes between the two of them, especially with the acting stuff. I think the stage screen acting themes with the characters that do that are very, very prominent. Definitely sort of the top. This is the most messed up. I would say the TV movie stuff maybe has been the most scathing. Maybe the idol stuff, I don't know. We'll have to see where it all goes, but yeah, I mean, Oshinoko wins this for me. As good as Boys Abyss is, Oshinoko is just excellent. Mango has great art, although I love the art in Boys Abyss is also very good. So yeah, best ongoing Seinen, Oshinoko. Any last comments on these two?
Nope, it is decided.
Cool. Next up is best ongoing rom-com or romance. This one, I have some issues with your nominee, but we'll talk about it when we get there.
All right.
Again, just what's the best rom-com? What's the best romance? My nominee here is Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro by Nanashi. And your nominee is Dan, which
Yep.
I would say is not a romance. I don't think a shonen having romance belongs in this category, but I will say
I disagree.
if we were looking at which shonen has the best romance, this Dan wins by like easily. So, why don't you go first on this one?
Sure. I think Dandadan does romance better than most romance manga. I like
I agree.
Nagatoro, but I think it does romance even better than Nagatoro because I think the issue that a lot of rom-coms run into is that they have to stall. And Dandadan not being primarily a rom-com, even though it is, because it has romance and comedy, since it doesn't have to wait or fill or stall, they develop their characters so much more naturally. I feel like Okuren and Momo's relationship kind of develops so fluidly and naturally, and it does something really well, which it doesn't beat the audience over the head that they like each other. And I think a lot of rom-coms get into that habit of doing. They have to explicitly show, because that's kind of the climax of every chapter if you're writing a rom-com, especially a long-running one.
Yeah,
So I feel, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was an interesting category for me because I think a lot of the rom-coms that I like generally had missteps this year, right? Last year, I probably would have said Blue Box was the best rom-com. It didn't. It had missteps this year. Love Rivals and some bad things. I think it's sort of riding the ship in the last 3 or 4 weeks. Kaguya ended, so I didn't want to nominate that. My Charms Are Wasted on Kurio America, I think, had a bad arc. We're coming off a bad arc. I still think that's a pretty decent rom-com, but I don't think it deserved the award. My honorable mention here, and I almost nominated here, is Smoking Behind the Supermarket. I think that's also a really good rom-com, but
That's good. That's
you hit on a really interesting idea that I think is true, and it is definitely what makes the romance in Dan to Dan worthwhile, and that's that the romance is not the main part; it's secondary to something else that's going on, and that means that you can drive the story forward without mixing up the romance, right? Something else I would put in here as an example of that is, I bring this up a lot because I think it's a really good romance, but Quintessential Quintuplets, right, by Negi Haruba. There's a mystery involved there of, which of these quintuplets did he first know, because that's the girl assumedly that's going to win. I think that putting a mystery first and a romance second makes that series better. And I think Dan to Dan does the same thing, right? It's a shonen first, and it is definitely a romance, maybe third or fourth. But yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. If we're talking romance in shonen, I don't think I've seen it done as well as Dan to Dan. And yeah, I mean, just hardly at all. I generally think that romance, I won't say it doesn't belong in shonen. I will say that most shonen action battle shonen authors should not try to write romance because they are not good at it.
Yeah, that's why Oda doesn't.
Yeah, Oda doesn't
not that he's
do
not
it.
good at it. It just doesn't fit in his story. It makes sense.
Oda doesn't really do romance. There's no romance in Fire Force except for like 2 side characters, and it's very, very small and light, and I think that it worked just fine. That's another one that I think is he just didn't do it because it's just not what it's about, right? Anytime Horikoshi in My Hero has tried any type of romance, it has not worked. It has fallen flat. Yeah, I think Dan to Dan's good. I will say I don't think it's a primary romance, so I don't know if it gets my vote here. You might have to try to sway me. Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. All those other romance things that I listed had missteps. I think Nagatoro has consistently gotten better and better, and the last year was good, excellent, great art. The character progression in this is good. I know I talk about the sort of proactivity of a character as being one of the big draws, and in romance, one of the big issues is when characters are not proactive, right? When you want to say, just talk to them, just confess. And when they finally confess, it feels good. It feels great. Both the characters in Nagatoro are increasingly proactive, especially in their romance. And this past year, the past 2 or 3 arcs, I just think they've just been really good. This is just a really good rom-com. And I don't know what to say. I mean, I think it's just a great rom-com. It's great.
Yeah. Nagatoro works in every way, and I also agree it's a great rom-com. And I think what a lot of people fell off of it is like the first few episodes of the show are like you don't really understand their dynamics, so it just seems like flat bullying.
Even when you understand their dynamics, because I came into this sort of in the middle of it being published. A lot of these things, especially rom-coms, you can kind of pick up in the middle, understand the week to week of it. So I picked it up, I don't know, maybe 60 or 70 chapters in, something like that, and then I went back and read the start. Even when you understand the dynamic, it's just straight bullying at the start. Yeah, does not have a strong start unless you're into being bullied by little girls, which is who knows. But I think it's just gotten better, right? Like it's the first maybe 10 or 20 chapters are a bit rough, but after that, I mean, I think this is going to go down, not on Kaguya level, but this is going to go down as one of those rom-coms that if someone's like, hey, I want to read, a shonen rom-com, what do I read? You're going to offer Kaguya, Nagatoro, maybe a couple of the other older ones, but I think this series is it's just good. It's just solid. And to be honest, it gets a little bit of a boost because all of the other previously good rom-coms had missteps this year. So it's light on competition, I would say, but
it's very light on competition. I would honestly only put the only competition in my eyes that it has, if you exclude Dan to Dan, is Smoking Behind the Supermarket, Kubo Wants to Be Invisible, and the Sweat and Soap one.
The Telework. Yotabanashi. Yep.
And that just started, so I can't gauge that.
Yeah,
yet.
It's new, definitely very new. So, how in love are you with Dan to Dan winning this?
I think it's better, but I'm fine giving it to Nagatoro since it's primarily, it's first and foremost a rom-com.
Yeah, I think Dan to Dan is maybe going to take home a later award. So I think we give this to Nagatoro. I'm glad you brought up Dan to Dan and talking about the romance in it because I think you're right about everything you said. I think the romance in it for a shonen is really, really good. But yeah, let's give this to Nagatoro. I'm glad we were able to talk about the romance in Dan to Dan though, because I think that's a good points and stuff.
It just goes to show how everything works in that series. And yeah, looking forward to every chapter. Anyway, it's decided.
It is decided. It's Nagatoro. All right, I'm going to take a quick bathroom break for about 1 minute. So we're going to go on break real quick, and we will be right back.
All right.
All right, we're back. Thanks for waiting. Next up on the list, after romance, is best ongoing comedy. This is kind of a hard one to pick. I don't read a whole lot of straight comedy, but one of them really impressed me this year, and that was Elden Ring: Road to the Erd Tree. This is by Nikichi Tobita, and your nominee here is Witch Watch, which is, from what I understand, very popular. This is one that I have not read, so I'll go first. If you've played Elden Ring,
Yeah.
I mean, you've played Elden Ring. I'll say in general, as a viewer or a watcher, if you've played Elden Ring, this is absolutely hilarious. It's this weird, gross gag manga where the main character, you see him on the cover here. He has not worn that many clothes in any of the 10 or 11 chapters I've seen. He is like essentially wearing a thong throughout the entire series. It's goofy. Clearly the author and artist have played the games and are deeply involved. And man, you laugh out loud multiple times a chapter. It's just so incredibly good. It's incredibly funny. It is very niche because I think that if you haven't played Elden Ring, maybe if you've played some of the other FromSoft games, it would make sense to you. But if you haven't played Elden Ring, this isn't. I don't know. It's hard to say if this would work or not. I think it might. But man, this is. I mean,
I don't think it would. But...
Yeah, I kind of agree. It would be more difficult for this to make you laugh or for you to be invested in this. I do. If you've played Elden Ring or any other FromSoft games, I do think you would absolutely love this. You would laugh out loud. It's so funny. It's so great. I cannot laud it enough.
Yeah, it's hysterical. And yeah, our man's here is pretty much in the nude the whole time because you got a fast roll, you know? You can't have that armor on. It's very funny. I think it only works if you have played Elden Ring because I think a lot of the way, Elden Ring is so grimdark that the way they play it in this manga is it's just so buck wild and hammy that I love it.
Yeah, it very much works in a dark horror comedy, dark comedy kind of way where it's like exactly like you said, the dark world of Elden Ring is contrasted against the absolute goofball that the main character is and how goofy his antics are. And that's kind of the basis of most of the comedy for it. So yeah, sell me on Witch Watch, because I know that a lot of people like this. I know that I think it got an anime announcement. I know that it sells really well. It's 200 almost chapters in, maybe over 200. So this is a really popular series, and I have not read it. So sell me on Witch Watch and why it's the best comedy.
Right. So I think the first few chapters of Witch Watch are not laugh out loud funny, but they're charming. But as it goes, the author is just he tries so many weird ideas every single chapter. It's mostly episodic, where every chapter is focused on a gag or a concept of a gag of some kind. There have been 2 individual chapters that have just gone into raw denim, just a weird hobby that the author might or might not have, and the benefits of getting raw denim jeans and wearing it for a year without washing it.
That's crazy. I can't.
Yeah, and those are the kinds of risks he takes when putting out every chapter. A lot of them are like this. Not the raw denim thing, but just wild ideas, The main character is a witch. She can cast a billion different spells, but they all come with a catch of some kind.
So is it like, are you familiar with the idea of wild magic in D&D and Dungeons and Dragons?
It is like wild magic, except she can choose, but she's too ditzy to understand or explain the side effects to people.
Okay, you literally just sold me on the series, because wild magic is one of my favorite things in Dungeons and Dragons. I use that table a lot. If I played something, I would probably play something that involved that wild magic table. It's a sorcerer, I think, that does that. Yeah, the saying that, this is a wild magic, every time she casts a spell, something weird or funny happens, that you've sold me on Witch Watch already, so.
Yeah, that is practically every chapter. The author did a series called Skep Dance before this, which ended, and Witch Watch is the closest thing to filling the Gintama-sized hole in my heart. It's, of course, I don't think anything is as funny as Gintama, but it's close, and that's saying a lot. So it's understandable why it's so popular.
Yep. Here's a question. I think we give this to Witch Watch because it sounds funny. Everyone loves it. I have no problem with it. Elden Ring's a bit more niche. Do you think if Kaguya hadn't ended, does Kaguya take best comedy this year, or does it? Was it not funny enough to beat these two?
Uh, yeah, that's tough. I'd probably say Kaguya is funnier, but I think Witch Watch is more creative
Cool.
in in the types of jokes it does, because it does a lot of different stuff. So I'd probably still give it to Witch Watch in terms of comedy, just because it tries so many things and it has a lot of ideas that I haven't really considered or seen before. So I'd probably give it to Witch Watch.
Cool. I think yeah. I
Even if
think I think
Kaguya's
we
on
give
the
this
table.
award to Witch Watch. Sounds like a great comedy. I'm excited to read it. I'm currently reading something we'll talk about on the next nominee, and just basically right now. But yeah, I think Witch Watch wins best ongoing comedy here. Next up, is a big one because the majority of things that you and I read, the majority of manga that sells in Japan and the West is shonen manga. Weekly Shonen Jump, Weekly Shonen Magazine, those two cover 80, 85, 90% of sales for shonen. So again, one of the big awards, best shonen. You're going to see two pretty familiar things here. My nominee, the first nominee here is obviously Chainsaw Man by Tatsuki Fujimoto. And your nominee is Sakamoto Days. So why don't you go first on this?
Sure.
Tell me
Yeah.
about why Sakamoto Days is the best ongoing shonen in 2022.
Um, okay, yeah. I will preface this by saying I'm probably going to give it to you. Chainsaw Man is just so good.
It's so good.
But I did want to talk about Sakamoto Days because I think it would be a horrible shame not to put this somewhere. Sakamoto Days has a fun, entertaining story about assassins. Sakamoto obviously doesn't kill, but he's a former assassin. I think we talked earlier about One Punch Man and Dandadan having, and mentioned Kaiju 8 having the best action paneling, One Punch Man and Dandadan having amazing detail. And while I don't think Sakamoto Days is on that level of detail, uh, I think it has the best action choreography, well, tied with Murata. But what it does better than any of those series is it has the most creative fights, hands down, and it's not close.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Sakamoto Days it has so many different creative ways of fighting, and it uses the environment every single fight. Um, they're fighting on the top of an grounded airplane at one point. Sakamoto rips off one of the wheels and rides it and flings the wheel. That's just one fight, and they're all like this. It's
Yeah,
just
I mean, I started reading this literally last night because I wanted to catch up and know a little bit more about it. Like in chapter 1, Sakamoto like shoots a jawbreaker out of his mouth to deflect a bullet, and then he uses a rubber band from his convenience store to like shoot not bullets, but essentially bullets at the guy he's fighting. So yeah, I mean, even in the first 10 chapters, there's a fight that happens on a roller coaster and then on the roller coaster track as the cars come by 2 or 3 times as these two guys fight. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. The action here is super creative. I would say more creative,
honestly
maybe.
than anything I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only 10 into it, so I would say, some of the things in Dan are pretty creative too, but they're more typically creative, if that makes sense. This is more like do something wild and funny. That fight that I was talking about on the roller coaster ends with one of the guys dressing up in a bunny suit, and they crash onto a live stage show that's like a Power Rangers stage show, and he ends up beating the guy wearing the bunny suit. So one of the main characters he has a mind reading ability, and then there's Sakamoto, who's sort of like the best assassin ever, who's retired. And that fight is the mind reader guy with his eyes closed, reading the mind of Sakamoto, as Sakamoto tells him exactly how to fight, while he's in a bunny suit fighting this guy with poison. And yeah, like you're absolutely right. This has some of the most creative fights. So far for me, again, only about 10 chapters in. The writing is just okay. It's just fine. Serviceable.
It's just fun. All in all, you're not gonna get a Citizen Kane out of this, but it enables the action super well, and the story is just entertaining. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the other side is, I think, our winner, almost uncontested, is Chainsaw Man Part 2. Yeah, I mean, Fujimoto already won one of our awards with the best one shot. I would argue here, obviously, that he also has the best ongoing shonen. The beginning of Chainsaw Man Part 1 and this are both a little bit slower than what the later arcs would be in Part 1, and I think will be in Part 2. But I think he's shown growth in writing. I think the first 20, 25 chapters of Part 1 of Chainsaw Man are good, but they are more typical. They are more tropey. They're a little bit more standard. Still goofy, fun characters. Still good writing. Here, I think he has broken that a little bit. There's less tropes. There's more female agency, which is something that I'm always calling for in shonen. And man, people were hyped for this to come back, and I do not think it's disappointed. The action has been great. The story has been good. The new characters are awesome. The plot twists are amazing. It's just good. It's just the best. It's just one of the best shonens around right now. So what do you think about Chainsaw Man?
No, it's phenomenal. And the thing is, like, it hasn't even had that much action. It's had a lot of chapters so far, but it hasn't had that much action. And in good, because you need to develop Asa as a character. She's our second main character. So it's just working really well. It's setting up a lot of intrigue and compelling plot points. And I would say, unlike the one difference I think I feel at the moment is, unlike the first Chainsaw Man, we're following Denji. Everything is out of his control, and he's not very inquisitive to find out what's going on behind the scenes, and that's kind of the onus of the villain's plot and all that stuff. Here we don't really see kind of a hidden mastermind yet. It's more of like kind of an internal duel between Asa and Denji at the moment, and I think that's different and compelling.
And yeah, and I think you've hit on one of the points that makes Part 2 really strong. And again, Fujimoto's a good writer, so he made the right choice here. He essentially introduced a new protagonist, right? Asa is the protagonist of Part 2, I would say, so far, is the main character. Denji is present, but he is more of a secondary character, and I think that is what makes this just as compelling as Part 1. I think if we just had Denji again and we're finding out what he's doing, I think it's not as good as what we've gotten. And you're absolutely right that in Part 1, Denji's sort of thrown into doing work for other people, doing jobs for other people. Aki's kind of his caretaker and all this stuff. So he isn't doing much other than kind of being pointed at people and saying, turn into Chainsaw Man and fight that. And that's kind of what he does for the first 20, 25 chapters. Here things are different in that he has control of his own life, but that isn't a good thing because he's a bit of a moron. And Asa's kind of, we're learning she's a little bit of the same way, right? She does have control of her own life, contracted with the devil, just like Denji, or similar to Denji. But she's also kind of an idiot. And so things are just going sideways. I can see on the horizon the series improving and getting wild again. Everything that I've read from Fujimoto has started much more tropey and muted and soft than it ends. It ends much more wild and out there. So really excited to see where this goes. We both agree Chainsaw Man wins this.
Yeah. I will say, though, I don't think Asa's an idiot. I think she just has very low self-esteem.
Well, I don't know. If you read that first chapter again with the chicken...
War Devil's an idiot.
Yeah. Well, they're both kind of idiots, which I think is a good part of it. But yeah, Chainsaw Man wins this best ongoing shonen. Only being published for 4 months now. I think it started back in September.
Yeah, not too long ago.
Yes, but I mean, it's amazing what Fujimoto can do in just 4 months. That he can beat everything else, I think, for us.
He's so talented, yeah.
So very good.
And let me start the next one since it flows.
Yeah, so the next one, you can go first. The next one is best character. In manga, this is the character in 2022 we thought had the best arc, the coolest stuff, the thing that was most compelling to us. So yeah, you can see it again. My nominee here, this is where I chose my One Piece nominee. We're only allowed to nominate One Piece once. But yeah, I nominated Monkey D. Luffy here. I think he was great. And you nominated Denji from Chainsaw Man. So yeah, start us off.
Yeah, I think Denji is a compelling disaster train crash of a human being, and I love him. I think he is clearly in some kind of funk or depression, because Chainsaw Man 1 it clearly fucked him up in a lot of ways, it seems.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and his worst tendencies are kind of on display in part 2, if you've seen. Um, Unlike part 1, he doesn't have a collar on him anymore, so no one is holding the leash. He's just kind of doing whatever he wants. And when he does whatever he wants, he just does a bunch of stupid shit and lives incredibly impulsively. And that fits the character perfectly. He's very well written. Um, he's it really seems like he is in a funk and that somebody has to like go see the therapy double, Denji, because you really needed Bud. Also, he's the funniest he's ever been, in my opinion. If we had a comedy scene, best ongoing comedy scene, it would be Denji uh, picking up cigarette butts, emptying the tobacco into new rolls, and reselling them because he wants a part-time job, and getting a part-time job is illegal as a student. So he's just illegally selling cigarettes instead,
Yeah.
thinking he's being morally righteous. Uh, what a
Yeah,
moron.
Denji is excellent here. I totally agree with you. Yeah, what to even say? It's so funny because I reread Chainsaw Man maybe 5 or 6 months ago, part one, and he starts, and I think he's sort of compelling and stupid, and he develops, and then the way that part one ends is not fully positive for him. There's definitely some trauma left over, so to see kind of where that trauma has brought Denji and how he's dealing with it, and the way that he's like you said, dealing with being in school for the first time, being a part of public school, is really funny, really interesting. Yeah, I really like Denji here. I don't even know if he's maybe not even my favorite character in part two though. I think Asa's really great. There's a lead. I think if we wanted to best ensemble, maybe is something we do next year. Chainsaw Man maybe would win that for me. Um,
Yeah, my last series, my favorite was Power.
Yep, a lot of people's favorite. On the other side of that, a bit more lighthearted, although the things that happened this year, I have to try to talk about the last 12 months of One Piece without spoilers because a lot happened. I will say less here. The things that Luffy did in the last 12 months of One Piece are some of the best in the whole series, I think. Wano arc, end of the Wano arc, the final battle that he was in of the Wano arc that it probably started before last December, before the time of this year started, was just excellent. I am continually impressed by Oda in how committed he is to having Luffy be his main character. So many large shonen that have large casts will sort of swap between another character will be the sort of main character for 10 or 20 chapters, and then they'll maybe come back. I mean, even Fire Force did this at the end, right? I talk about the last 100 chapters. I think the Shinra, the main character, is only in maybe half, maybe less than half of those last few chapters, and somehow Oda continues to keep Luffy growing, and he's compelling, and he's still the main character, and he's still the most important character, and the things he does are still in character, and even though he develops and changes and grows, he's still Luffy at his core. It's just excellent. I mean, I know you and I both love One Piece, so
Absolutely. And I think a lot of pitfalls that some people fall into is either flanderizing a character or trying to write your protagonist like how you would react to something.
mhm.
And I think Oda has been so incredibly consistent of keeping Luffy Luffy that you won't doubt for a second that he falls into any of those pitfalls, either of those pitfalls, because Luffy is just Luffy all the way through, and his reactions are predictable at times, and they catch you off guard at times because that's just him as a character.
It's great. This is a real competition in my opinion. I mean, I'm
I know,
are
I know, I know, I know
are
which way I'm voting.
Are you okay? Tell me your vote. I'm
Uh,
50-50 on it, to be honest.
for me, it's Luffy easily.
I'm totally down. I mean, that's my nominee. I think Luffy wins this. One Piece deserves to win something every year.
Yeah.
I think this is the category to give to it. So, yeah, I think the best character in 2022 is definitely Luffy. I would not have put him up for 2021 or 2020, which I believe is when I caught up to One Piece. But yeah, 2022 was Luffy's year. So I think he absolutely wins this.
And man, how hype was Gear 4? Or sorry, Gear 5.
Yeah, I mean,
So sick.
no spoilers, but yes, it's when
It's on the cover.
it is on the cover. So I mean, and you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And if you are interested in One Piece, check it out. Don't let the chapter count intimidate you. I wish there was more. Almost everyone who reads One Piece doesn't think it's too long. They think that there's not enough of it. So, the next one, which is our final sort of specific category before we get into this kind of best of the year, is best story arc. So this is sort of the best arc that doesn't necessarily start in 2022 but ended in 2022. Which of those do you think had was the best little self-contained story inside the series? My nominee here is the Dreamy School Life arc in Ranger Reject by Negi Haruba, and your nominee is Mocked of El Dorado, from Frieren, which we talked about a little bit earlier. So
I think this one will be probably our closest one.
This might be the closest one. These were, when I was choosing, the first thing I thought of was Mocked of El Dorado from Frieren, because that was just, I think it started in 2021. It was a long arc, but it ended, and yeah, I mean, we gave Frieren the win for writing, and that's plays into the best arc here a lot. But I also think that Ranger Reject deserves to be nominated.
It was so strong.
So very strong. And coming off of the heels of what both you and I considered sort of a rocky arc with the sort of garage fighting arc. Yeah, kind of boring. Every 2 or 3 chapters was good, but not every chapter was good. To go straight into an arc that was, 20 or so chapters that were consistent, good, satisfying, great end, great new characters. And speaking of Ranger Reject, we got a drop for the trailer, which looks awesome. We'll maybe talk about that a little bit next week. But
sorry, did you mean Go Go Loser Ranger?
Nah, English translators, please.
It's so bad.
Yeah, but
go ahead and take her away.
Yeah, I mean the Dreamy School Life arc. I'll try to talk without spoilers. Main character joins the Green Rangers team, who's sort of a psyops in small team intelligence type thing. They go into the dream, which the executive, which is the bad guy, kind of creates, and they're on it's one of my favorite story tropes, which is time loops, right? I love time travel. You'll hear me talk about it occasionally. Time travel stories are my favorite. It started with my mom introducing me to Back to the Future all those years ago. I love Back to the Future Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. They're all great. I love time loop stories. And this is a good one. And that you do not see that often. Most time travel, time looping things are not good. This one was interesting. It was cool. Negi sets up the rules of how the arc is going to work as soon as you get into the dream world, and he sticks to them. The bad guy is clearly defined. The characters grow. The main character changes. The new characters, the Green Ranger especially, is a standout and his second in command. All the characters are good. All the writing is good. The action is great at the end. The resolution is good. It's tight. It's compact. It legitimately, I think, is one of the best just shonen arcs I've ever read, like independently. I mean, I would put it up there with, for me, some of the One Piece arcs. Like, I think Alabasta is my favorite. Like, I would put it up there with Alabasta as just a good self-contained part of the story. It fires on all cylinders, hits everything that it's going for. All the character stuff is good. I don't think I see a single flaw in the Dreamy School Life arc of Ranger Reject. I think it's great. I think there's flaws in the series overall, but yeah, Dreamy School Life arc is great. How did you feel about it?
I loved it. I think it did so much so well it didn't overstay its welcome, and I think it did something unique, which was this wasn't really a battle arc. It was a psychological arc.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another ballsy thing it did was that D, our protagonist, um, wasn't the biggest impactor of this arc. He did a lot, sure, but the other characters carried their weight just as much, if not more, and it just set itself up so well, which the previous arc didn't do, in my opinion. This one set up so much intrigue, so many potential like plot devices that they can use later, and it was the shortest arc yet, and I loved it. Yeah, it just I hope it continues like this.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, I compared it to One Piece, but it does exactly what you were talking about. Something that's very similar to One Piece, where Oda will choose a character inside the arc that's usually a new character to kind of get the character development, and their arc is what's inside that arc. In Alabasta, it's Princess Vivi. In Dressrosa, it's the other princess, Rebecca. It's usually the princess who gets the arc, or someone like that. This kind of did the same thing, right? It introduced the green team, and it's the second in command of the green team who kind of gets the arc and is the focus of this arc. And I think that's something that helps it out, is kind of focusing on that thing. And I think, let you talk about it, I think Mocked of El Dorado does the same thing with Denkin, right? As much as our Frieren and her little team is still the main focus of the overall story, I think that the Mocked of El Dorado arc is Denkin's arc to carry, and I think he carries it well. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and it's a shame that these two are going against each other, because I don't, in my eyes, Mocked of El Dorado does not lose as an arc, even as good as Ranger Rejects arc was. In Frieren at the funeral, it's clear Frieren is incredibly powerful, right? And it's interesting that Mocked, one of the demons, is just the strongest being on Earth. He turned an entire city into gold, including all the humans, everything around
An
it.
entire county, essentially. Miles and miles of gold.
And they actively have a barrier keeping it contained that's weakening by the day, you know? And I think the strong part of this arc, and you said your thing is time loops, which is super fun. My thing is kind of like what Frieren explores a lot, is what it means to be human. And it sure as hell does that in this arc. Demons in Frieren are pretty unique because they are pretty sociopathic in ways where they don't understand human emotion. They can't even begin to comprehend it. At best, they'll mimic it to trick humans or to agitate them in order to kill them. But they can't grasp it. And Mocked is pretty unique because he tries very hard to understand.
Right. We talk about this a couple times, but I compare the demons, the devils in Frieren to, they're essentially Asimov's robots, right? They do not understand humanity yet. They kind of, the things that they understand and emulate about humanity are kind of programmatic. They think, oh, if I cry and beg for my life, they might spare me. Demons have tried that a couple times, and Frieren can see through it. And this, I mean, you're right. The interesting thing about Mocked here is that Mocked knows this, and he actively, he's proactive in that he actively tries. He says, I want to understand humans. I want to be able to feel empathy, which the demons don't feel. I want all those things. That's what I'm after. And then he still, turns the whole city to gold. And how does he deal with that? How does, even though I think I said that Denkin carried this arc, I'm reconsidering now that I think it's actually Mocked who probably is sort of the main character of this arc. He has a sort of character arc, although I wouldn't necessarily say that he is changed by the end, but he goes through a character arc in it. And I'll give up the Dreamy School time loop arc of Ranger Reject because, I agree. Mocked of El Dorado, Frieren is incredibly strong. It's won tons of awards that it deserves, and I think Mocked of El Dorado is the best arc it's had, and that's really saying something.
It's easily the best arc it's had, and I still probably would put Chapter 1 of Frieren as the best, but that's because it's self-contained, and it's easier to say that, but Mocked of El Dorado was phenomenal, and I think what I liked about Mocked is, like, at the beginning, before he tries to understand humanity better. His way of understanding was like experimenting by giving like two kids a sword and telling them to kill one another and
Yeah.
asking what emotion they felt after one of them was dead. And to make a monster like that sympathetic is hard work, but I think they actually the author managed to do it, and that's impressive. Because Mocked was sympathetic towards the end. He wasn't a good person, but he was. I think the audience felt for him in a lot of ways throughout the course of his arc, and it's just very strong writing.
Yeah. Have you ever read of I think it's of Mice and Men? Did you ever read that in high school
Yeah,
years
yeah,
ago?
I
The
have.
big guy with mental problems.
Is it Lenny?
Lenny. I was going to say Larry, but Lenny. I think Lenny is right. Yeah, Lenny. I again the demons are so interesting in this because they, in the way that Lenny, for a different reason, right, sort of can't comprehend his own strength and how that can kind of hurt things and people around him, but he wants to, and he's eager to learn and be friends with animals and stuff. And I see kind of a lot of that here, which is, it's really saying something to compare a manga, Friar from the Funeral, to Steinbeck, who's an all-time great American author. But there's just a lot of the same things going on here with Mocked. So yeah, I mean, I give it to Friar and the El Dorado arc here. You're right, it's exceptional. I think if we were talking about individual arcs as the best of the year, this beats everything for me. This is so good.
Yeah, and I know that we both decisively picked Freyr in here, but I have to say this was tough because both were so good. But yeah, I'd also give it to Freyr at the funeral.
All right. Mocked of El Dorado arc from Friarin wins Best Story Arc of 2022. And we are on to the last two awards. This next one, I actually think, is the toughest one. Although these last three are all pretty hard for me. But yeah, Best Ongoing Manga. So this is just what's the thing that was published this year that we kept coming us back. I thought about this as, what's the one thing every week that I just can't wait to read? And for me, that's Dan to Dan by Tatsuyuki Nobu. And for you, it's One Piece by Eiichiro Oda. So why don't you go first? You don't have to sell me on One Piece, but tell me why One Piece was the thing that you had to go read every week, the best ongoing manga of 2022 for you.
Yeah, actually, I know I don't have to sell you on it because I made like a bet with Bruce, and he read like all of One Piece in like a month or 2 months or something. But yeah, I will preface this by saying I won't be picking One Piece going forward because I think it's cheating because I love it too much,
Yeah.
and I have an obvious bias.
Yeah,
But,
well, and we did establish a limit of, you can only nominate One Piece for a single category. So I nominated it for
right.
best character. You nominated it for best ongoing. It won't be showing up.
I just feel like it will be best ongoing next year too, so I'm not gonna pick that
True.
next year. But
Yep.
anyway, One Piece was spectacular. This was the conclusion to the Wano arc. If you haven't read One Piece, it's a huge arc, and there's a copious amount of world building that set up the universe, the One Piece universe and characters and everything for how this arc progressed, and it shifted a lot of the things within the world, and it did so while keeping it incredibly fun and entertaining and keeping the Straw Hat crew just as carefree and jovial as ever. I think One Piece is peak fiction. Every single chapter this year and every year has the best pacing out of weekly shonen. Every chapter has so many tidbits of world building and lore that you can think about, while also having plot developments, action. It's all interwoven, and Oda does it amazingly.
Yeah,
I don't know
One
when he
Piece
has
is.
time to write the story, but yeah,
One Piece. It's if you read it, skip ahead 2 minutes when we're done with this conversation because right. One Piece is just that good. A couple of things that you called out that I agree with. We're at a moment in the story in One Piece now where instead of asking more questions in the world building, we're starting to get answers. And I think that's definitely one of the things that is compelling. One Piece has always sort of provided some answers to things as we go along, but the end of Wano and the last 8 to 10 weeks of One Piece has really just opened up the world through answering the questions that we've had for some of them 22, 23 years. It's just excellent. You're right. The world building is great. I'm constantly stunned by the pacing of One Piece, by how in 20 or 22 pages Oda can have 7 different fights all for a page or two in panels and still reveal new information and still move the plot forward, and you still leave us wanting more at the end of it. And he does that 40 times a year, right? Every single, 3 weeks of every month, Oda publishes chapters of One Piece, and they are paced perfectly. They move things forward. They're very good. It's unrivaled. You're right. I mean, One Piece, like I said, if you read it, it's very good. It's hard to topple.
Completely agreed. And honestly, I think that covers One Piece. It doesn't begin to cover One Piece, but I think that's good enough for One Piece. And
I think that's
for it. I'd rather talk about Dandadan.
Yeah. So my nominee here is Dandadan. Thinking about what's the one series that I'm always looking forward to. I'm thinking about week to week. When I read it, it satisfies me in the best way. It's Dandadan. And we've talked about it. I think this is maybe the 4th time it's been nominated for something here. It's just great. Everything works in Dandadan. The character stuff is great. The action is great. The writing is good. The romance is good, like we talked about. The designs are wild. The plot twists, the character twists, the new characters, the mecha fights, spirit fights, young Yoku fights. Everything is just amazing. I cannot find fault in Dandadan. I will say this year, there were a couple of faults in One Piece that I noticed and that were kind of rectified later. The sins of it being a long-running series with only 20 or 22 chapters a week means that if I would just be patient, it would be okay. I don't think I've ever read a chapter of Dandadan this year and had an issue with it. I don't know if you agree with that or what.
I was actually going to say, yeah, I feel like I can pick at criticisms for everything on our list so far.
Yes,
except Dandadan. I don't think I can think of a single issue at all right now. Dandadan does everything right, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, it's excellent. I mean, you and I are both very big critics, me especially. I'll read things that are peak fiction, as good as One Piece, and I can still say, Oda's action paneling isn't the best. There was some character stuff at the end of Wano I didn't love that was kind of resolved later. Dandadan, I'm thinking, I literally cannot think of a complaint. I'm trying desperately to think of a complaint I would have about Dandadan, and I can't. That doesn't necessarily mean it's perfect for everyone, but for me, and I think for you, Dandadan it's essentially flawless.
I guess my only potential, it's not even an issue, is that there's no big villain or any kind of lingering threat.
We have talked about this. Yeah, no overarching story, no real connection between the kind of individual events. I think we're getting more of it now in these last couple of chapters, but that's when I think about that as a critique, I think that's more of just something I want, because I don't think that it detracts from the story at all.
It does not. It's not even an issue, because even the episodic, the arcs that we've had so far, it doesn't need a big villain,
Yeah.
The only reason we're thinking about a lingering threat is, how do you end this? Where are we going towards the end? But that's like a meta question, and I'm sure the author will do it at some point. But at the moment, it's perfectly fine the way it is.
Yep. You heard my keyboard type. I typed in Dandadan here. As good as One Piece is, it's always going to be good. I think Dandadan wins this year. Do you agree?
No, I think it's One Piece.
You think it's One Piece? Okay, the conversation continues.
While I do think Dandadan doesn't do anything wrong, and I think sure there are points in One Piece that you can pick apart, or have issue with, like the Yamato thing. I I don't think I've felt peaks reading manga like I have this year with One Piece.
And this
I
was
think,
maybe the
yeah.
best One Piece has ever been. Very close to it. I would put Wano as probably my number 2 or 3 best arc in One Piece. So
Yeah,
yeah,
same here. And I think it's been this way because I loved Whole Cake, But the thing is, I think there were so many dynamic shifts within the world of One Piece, like so many developments, so many answers that I think that's the culmination of it being built, like all these questions being built up over 20 years, like 2 decades, that are getting the payoff. I can't think of anything better than One Piece at the moment. I won't bring it back next year though, I swear, unless it ends. But
man,
uh,
I'm
I have to give it to One Piece, even if I can't criticize Dandadan. The highest highs were from One Piece.
I'm hard pressed to give up Dan to Dan here because we didn't give it the win for romance, which I think is right, and we didn't give it the win. Where did it else for best art and artist? I think
I don't think we need to give it a win just because it didn't get one before.
I feel
But
like there should just always be a separate category that just says best One Piece, and it's the winner is One Piece, and that happens every year. Because you're right, One Piece is always good.
why don't we just make a category for best One Piece, since I won't be bringing it up next year because I think
I'll remember that
uh,
next year. Yeah, as a meme.
because
Will you
it is the best
concede
one.
me? Will you concede me Dan to Dan? I will ask
Yeah.
this of you.
Imagine if I just said no and we continue talking about this for like 15 minutes. Yeah, let's go Dandadan.
If you
It's
honestly,
amazing.
it's I would not lose a single second of sleep if One Piece won here. It's very good. I just think how consistent and virtually flawless Dan to Dan has been. I almost said One Piece because it's that good.
I think our metrics are different here because for me it doesn't need to be flawless. It just needs to hit me harder. And Dandadan hits me plenty hard. It's really good. But no, I'm fine with Dandadan because I do think One Piece is just perfect.
Yeah,
It would be a shame not to put something as good as Dandadan that's currently running and kind of new. Not super new.
I'm kind of in the same. I know that's not how award shows should work. You shouldn't go, oh, this deserves an award. We haven't given it one. Let's give it this last one. But at the same time,
I don't think we'd change our minds. That's the thing, right? Like so, because I think both are so fucking phenomenal.
yeah,
And the thing is, I wouldn't lose a wink of sleep over this either because I think
yeah.
Dandadan is just not good.
We could literally. I will hold on. Let's just flip a coin for it to see.
No.
No, let's do it. Let's do it.
The chance? Okay.
Leave it. Let's leave it to
Okay, let me-
RNG because I
Wait,
think we
didn't
can
call
do
it.
this. Okay. Head
Give me tails. Give me tails for One
tails
Piece.
for One Piece. Heads for Dan to Dan. I think this is worth it. These are so equally stellar that it's up to it. So you've got
You're right.
tails. I've got heads.
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. One Piece wins.
All right, well deserved.
I'm down.
Honestly,
Let's do it.
I was gonna say well deserved for either outcome. That's how much I like both of these.
Yeah, I agree.
And honestly, yeah, this one was the hardest category. You're right.
I think this
because-
is the hardest category.
how
We've
are
spent
you-
10 minutes on it now. I think this is our longest discussion. This is
Yeah.
very, very hard because this is, like you said, some of the best of a the longest running peak fiction shonen, best moments, hypest hype, coolest power ups, great character moments, it's cool story reveals versus a smaller and more self-contained and newer story that is essentially flawless. Yeah, how do you choose? A coin flip is how you choose because there's no other real way to do this. I will not lose sleep over this. One Piece wins best ongoing manga of 2022, and I'm good with it. I'm great with it.
I agree. Yeah.
All right,
Let's end it.
the final category is the best new manga. I saved this for last because I think this is the most interesting conversation to have, and I think this is the most important. As what's the best thing that has started from December 1st, 2021 to December 1st, 2022, or November 31st, 30th? How many days are in November? 30 days in November.
Some amount.
Best new manga. I think both of these are incredibly heavy hitters. Because it's not just that, oh yeah, it's the best thing of the year, but other stuff is better. I think these two are both incredible manga in their own rights and have every right to be in the discussion of best ongoing next year, best story arc, all these things. My nomination is Yomi no Tsugai by Hiromu Arakawa of Full Metal Alchemist and Silver Spoon fame. And your nomination is Akane Banashi.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'll take it away this time.
Go first, yeah.
Akane came out with a lot of other new series, i.e. Earthchild, Auroran, that one with the Demon Mafia.
Yeah,
Ayashimon.
Yep.
And it stood out in just so spectacularly. Akane is the best protagonist of the lot easily, and it covers Rakugo, which is just an interesting niche hobby within Japan, and outside of Japan, it's nothing. Nobody knows what Rakugo is, and to have that as a manga on a comic like Jump that's mainstream everywhere in the world now is bold. And the thing is, it makes it interesting. An issue I had with Cypher Academy is not displayed here. It makes Rakugo so very interesting. The characters are great. Akane is hot-headed, spirited, but also flawed in the parts where she fails.
She's overly headstrong.
Yeah, she's overly headstrong. She fails, but she also acts like a normal human being and learns from it. She eats humble pie like pretty happily because it's a learning moment, and she realizes that. And that's done in a way that makes her incredibly compelling and feels like someone you can root for very easily.
Yep. I'm with you on this. I love Akane Banashi. It's excellent.
It's so good. And I think I was telling Bruce about this, but it's like Shokugeki no Soma or Food Wars and Chihaya Furu in that they're kind of battle shonens or sports manga in a way, where
right. This one I was gonna comment. Akane is very much framed as sort of a sports manga with training. We've gone through 2 or 3 training arcs, competitions, sort of a tournament. There's a tournament arc essentially already in this, so it's so very creative in playing with shonen tropes. And yeah, I mean, I agree. This is maybe the best lead character in classic Jump right now. I mean, maybe Luffy wins, but Akane is just excellent.
Yeah, best new character for sure. I can't think of any new character from this year better than Akane.
Yeah,
and at the very least.
I hate to use the overused phrase breaking the mold, but this is a shonen that is, you mentioned it, very much breaking the mold. I mean, female lead character is not common. I'm trying to think true solo female leads in Weekly Shonen Jump. Is this the only one? There's got to be another one, right? Surely.
Ruri Dragon.
Yeah, that's not being published. Do we count that? That published 3 or 4 chapters and has gone on hiatus. I mean, yeah, Ruri Dragon also. And I think both Ruri Dragon and Akane show that I can't speak to if this is female readers or male readers or both who wants this, but I do think that there is a healthy thirst for more female protagonists in shonen, in manga in general. While they exist generally in the sort of less popular, less selling shoujo, josei genres. And I definitely think that there's because shonen is more popular, it just has more eyes on it. There's a lot of female fans. There's a lot of female fans of My Hero, Jujutsu Kaisen, all of these kind of shonen things, One Piece, all these things, and there are female characters in those, but they don't have that many female leads. And all of that to say that Akane is pushing the envelope, all these weird colloquialisms, whatever I want to say. It's good. And I'm so incredibly happy that we have a female lead character in Jump, and that it's successful, and that it is well written and good. Everything about Akane works for me. It's excellent. Yeah.
And someone needs to make up for Horikoshi.
Yes.
He's a representation black hole.
You could publish 4 Akane Banashis, and it would be hard to make up for the damage that Horikoshi's done to his female characters, but a conversation for another time.
Right.
My nomination here is Yomi no Tsugai. This should be translated as twin demons of the underworld, twins of hell, something like that. This is by Arakawa, who's the author of Full Metal Alchemist, widely considered to be the best anime of all time, one of the most accessible, generally good stories ever told in manga or anime, I would argue. And Yomi no Tsugai is the spiritual successor to that. Part of why I nominated it, generally I think it deserves, as good as Akane is, it's still a shonen, it's still kind of simple. Yomi no Tsugai is Full Metal Alchemist 2. It just is. And it's so disappointing to me to see the translation discussions up on Reddit, and it gets, for instance, the big discussions on Reddit that are not season finales or something will get 4 to 6K, maybe 8K if something's new or really good. This gets sub 1,000 comments on it. I think the last one had 500 or 600, maybe 30 or 40 comments. It's not widely read. It's not widely known. And it is literally a series from the most well-known anime and manga story, right? Full Metal Alchemist is the... specifically anime from Brotherhood is where most people know it. It's the anime, right? When someone asks, what do I watch to get into anime? What's the best one? Mal still, I think, has Full Metal Alchemist as number 1. It might be number 2 now from voting. Who knows? And this is more of it. It's more of her incredible world building. It's more of her incredible characters. It's more of her incredible character designs, which I love. The style, the power system is interesting again, just like it was in Full Metal Alchemist. And as much as we talked about Akane being sort of a champion or an important part of being a female lead character, I would argue that Hiromu Arakawa, as a female author, is pulling equally her weight. How accomplished she is in the world, and that a female mangaka has produced not only Full Metal Alchemist, which is, again, universally acclaimed, Silver Spoon, which also universally acclaimed for people who've seen it, though a bit more niche. This new series is so good. I cannot even tell you. The first chapter is amazing. The latest chapter, the characters are so perfectly fleshed out and nuanced and flawed, and it's interesting, and there's mystery, and I'm at a loss for words because I don't know how to describe it without just gushing and spoiling what's happened. It's so excellent. It's so good. I cannot wait for more. Arakawa also generally is more of a contained storyteller. A lot of shonen, seinen they'll start out and they'll introduce and they'll expand. We mentioned My Hero as something that expanded past what it could handle. Lots of shonen kind of do this. They get too big. There's too much going on. There's too many story angles. And Arakawa is just a master storyteller. She does not let things get out of hand. Things are contained. She introduces characters at a good pace. I mean, if you were just to ask me a single quality of this series, characters, art, design, paneling, it's all of it Arakawa is excellent at. And Yomi no Tsugai is so good. And this is going to get an anime probably in, I would say, 2 or 3 years. And it's going to, all the marketing behind it is going to be, from the creator of Full Metal Alchemist. And it's going to hit because it is honestly just as good, if not better than Full Metal Alchemist. That's my sell on Yomi no Tsugai. It is, I think, better than Full Metal Alchemist in the same number of chapters.
And I think for anyone who hasn't read it, just check out the first chapter. I think that's one that'll suck you in pretty fast because it is just such an incredibly strong pilot.
Yes.
I can't, off the top of my head, think of pilots as strong as this one, aside from Frieren, which
Frieren
is
Pilot was good. Dan to Dan was
also.
good. I do think this is the strongest chapter 1 of the last, I guess, of the last year, I could say.
Yeah, it's so intriguing. It's compelling. It has everything.
Yeah, and it only gets better after that, in my opinion. I do think the first chapter is excellent, but there's a big kind of change by the end of chapter 1, and the place where it goes is great. I will say the thing that I love about this is, and as good as I think Edward in Full Metal Alchemist is as a protagonist, the lead of this series is like Ed but better. Is like Ed without the stupid jokes, with more funny jokes. He is more active in the story. There is something that happened a chapter or two ago where there was kind of a typical shonen, like, join us, we're sorry we were fighting you, we're not the bad guys, blah, blah, blah. And the main character just kind of sits there and is just like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, you can get a hold of me whenever you want, but I deny your request. I'm going to do things on my own. I'm going to be my own person. I'm going my own way. And man, it's refreshing. The writing here is just exceptional. Like I said, this is, I think in 10 years, 10 or 12, maybe 15 years, this will have an anime. It'll be completed, anime and manga form. And this is going to be, Full Metal Alchemist will be number 1. And I think Yomi no Tsugai will probably 2 or 3, or maybe reverse those. Maybe Yomi no Tsugai is number 1 and Full Metal Alchemist is 2 or 3 at that point. But yeah, this is, the sell for this is it's Full Metal Alchemist Part 2, and it's just as good, if not better. She's been writing for almost 15 years since the end of Full Metal Alchemist, right? I think it ended in 2007 or 8, maybe 2009. And so it's been 12, 13 years, and she's only gotten better. Arakawa has, and it's just so good.
And normally I would probably say, let's see where it goes. But Arakawa's a hitter. I
trust
I don't think Arakawa can miss. Yeah. Silver Spoon, like we all know FMA is just fantastic.
Yep.
But Silver Spoon, her other work, is a completely different genre, and it's my favorite slice of life. Like it's perfect.
Yeah, it's maybe the best slice of life, and one of the best character exploration series. Yeah, I agree with you. There is definitely something to be said. I think there's 11 or 12 chapters of this now. I guess it would be 11 chapters. I think chapter 12 will be coming out in a month or so, or a couple weeks, to a week or two here. Yeah, it's very hard not to trust Arakawa, because Full Metal Alchemist has the best final third in shonen maybe ever. The whole end of that series, the climax, the finale is excellent. Silver Spoon is the same way. Excellent endings. All the character arcs are excellently. She's just great.
She's a hitter, man. Yeah.
Yeah. That being said, I'm okay to give this to Akane Banashi, because while I think both of these are important, Akane being published in Weekly Shonen Jump and being as good as it is, and being progressive and interesting and about an art form as opposed to a battle, and still being framed like a battle sports shonen. You were right to compare this to Chihayafuru, which is another series that I'm in love with. That also ended this year, but I didn't keep up with it. Maybe that should have been there instead of Fire Force. But
the thing is, I think Yomi no Tsugai probably gets it next year.
I think Yomi no Tsugai will. I think this is probably my best ongoing next year, or maybe best character or best arc or something. We'll have to see. But yeah, it's good that we haven't had anything sweep the awards. Next year, it's going to be Dan to Dan and Yomi no Tsugai battling it out for me, because this series is excellent. I think we give this to Akane. I think it means a little bit more in this case.
I think so too.
I think.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I think Arakawa has her awards and has been lauded enough. I don't. Does she need our 3 viewer, 5 podcast listener reward here? Maybe not.
If it's better, yeah.
If it's I agree with that. I think they're both good. I think these are tied.
Yeah, we give it to Kane here.
I think I think it's Akane Banashi, and I think it's well deserved. So that's it for awards. We're gonna do one more quick thing, which is just a couple of honorable mention shout-outs. These are things that we thought were good throughout the year. I wanted to shout out Witch Hat Atelier, which is a series by Kamome Shirahama, this is I started and caught up on this. It's about 65 chapters now. The best paneling in any series ever. Murata is actually second to the paneling that Shirahama has here. This series is very good. This series is cute. It's Harry Potter with cute girls doing cute things, but also magic is serious and important and artistic. I love this series a lot. My other honorable mention is Spy Family. As much as we talk about this week to week, sometimes being up and down, I think it's been super consistent now that we think about it. Flashback arc with Lloyd was great. The current school bus hijacking arc is good. You're on the Boat was good. I think when you look back at the year that Spy Family had, and also the sales it had, the anime released, I can't not give a short call out to Spy Family. So if you aren't checking either of these out, definitely give them a try. So what are your two?
And honestly, Spy X Family has been solidly consistent. Like,
No X.
had just the tennis arc, which I didn't really love, but
And
I
think that was
fine.
actually more than a year ago now, but
Yeah,
it might
it was
have
a
been
while
right at the
ago.
start of the year. I don't know.
And if my only issue is a very short arc, then I think this is a good series. My two are Iruma Demon Academy. It's pretty shonen standard, where it uses a lot of the same tropes, but I think the difference here is that it's just really charming and fun. And I know that's not really descriptive in any way, but even in the tensest of arcs, I don't ever get the heavy feeling I do with some stuff like Oshi no Ko, or like where some, like, but it does that while still keeping the stakes. So I'm still invested, but I have a really fun time reading it week to week.
Sometimes the best thing art can be is a release from real life and an enjoyment and to make us smile. Yeah, and I think that's what this series is, and I think that's worthwhile. So
Yeah, and honestly, it's just fantastic. The characters are all great. The action is fun. It's just it's a good concept, good series. It doesn't break the mold, but it doesn't need to.
Yeah.
And yeah, my other one, this one doesn't need my vouch because it's won a bunch of awards, but I don't think many people know about it. It's Insomniacs After School. It's about two insomniacs that go up to their school decommissioned telescope thing and just hang out because they can't sleep, so they're the only ones awake at this time. I would have put this in my best rom-com, but I wouldn't really consider it that much of a comedy, even though it has jokes. It's mostly just pure romance.
yeah, just sort
But
of showing
it's-
romance.
Yeah, but the characters are fucking great. Like, so much good character development, and I think the romance just works naturally in a. It doesn't have any of the romance tropes where there's misunderstandings and whatnot. And if there are moments where they get upset at each other, they just talk it out. So the stakes aren't like huge or heavy, but some of their issues are. But either way, I'm rambling. It's very good.
Yeah, I'm
And
curious
for
to
anyone
check it
who
out.
hasn't checked- Yeah, read it. It's
That's
awesome.
great. Well, thanks,
Oh wait,
everybody.
are we gonna pick the best honorable mention?
No, I didn't put a versus here, so I don't think we're gonna put these up against each other. I would say, I mean,
Can I pick mine though?
which one do you think wins this?
Witch Hat.
I was gonna say, if you pick anything but Witch Hat, I think we're gonna have to fight. Witch Hat is incredible.
It's fucking art.
Yeah,
So
and
good.
this is getting an anime sometime next year. I don't know if we have the exact dates of it yet, but I think people are gonna fall in love with this. This is a really, really special manga, and just the visual design and the paneling that goes on in this series alone deserves. Maybe there's like a best paneling award. I think as long as Witch Hat's being published, it's Witch Hat versus One Punch Man, and Witch Hat takes it for me. The paneling here is exceptional. It's such a good series.
Next year we should do a paneling and also fight choreography.
Yeah, just create awards to give them to things we like best
Yeah.
Rakugo performance manga. Okay, it's a
Yeah.
crown of honor.
Best One Piece. Yeah. Best One Piece this year is Naruto, guys. So
Best
live
One
with
Piece
that.
this year is Bleach Thousand Year War republished,
Yeah.
new edition.
we don't know how they did it, but they did.
They did it, yep. So let's go through our winners one more time, starting at the beginning. The worst thing we read this year was Ichigoki's Under Control, runner up to My Hero Academia there. The best ending, it was Fire Force. Best art and artist is Yusuke Murata for One Punch Man. Best writing, Friar at the Funeral. The best one-shot is Goodbye Eri. That's Tatsuki Fujimoto. Best ongoing seinen is Oshinoko. That's Aka Akasaka and Mango. Best ongoing rom-com is Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro by Nanashi. Best ongoing comedy is Witch Watch. Ongoing shonen is Chainsaw Man, Fujimoto again. The best character in 2022 was Luffy from One Piece. The best story arc is the Mock of El Dorado arc from Fire at the Funeral. The best ongoing manga of 2022 is One Piece, based on a coin flip, which no one is mad about. The best new manga of 2022 is Akane Banashi. And that is our awards. Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening. If you're listening and you want to watch us, we are live on the Black, Gray, White YouTube channel every Monday night at 8 p.m. Central, maybe Tuesday. Follow the Twitter at White, Gray, Black Manga if you want updates on that. And if you're watching us and you want us in podcast format, we are now on most podcasting platforms, the big ones, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and a couple others. You should be able to see those. If you want to support the channel and what I do, the videos I make and the podcasting we do, you can always check out my Patreon at patreon.com/WGBmanga, or check me out on Twitter, like I mentioned. Any last words for manga in 2022, Gautam?
Yeah, I hope Ginka and Luna doesn't get the axe. That's all I have to say.
Yep.
I think it's charming. Okay, yeah, that's it.
I hope 2023 allows for more growth, more fun for the channel, for manga in the West, more good discussions here and in your own Discords and personal lives. As always, thank you so much for being with us, and don't forget to read more manga. Sayonara.
See ya.